Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and I'm getting a piece ready for a museum show here in Seattle on February 8th. It's called Chamber Music, and the curator of the show invited us 36 artists in total to include an archive piece, and everybody has their own definition of what an archive piece is.
I'm going back 13 years when I was participating in museum shows to loop back, as it were, to another time and place, but on the same subject of Rembrandt's Ghost, which is the theme that runs throughout most of my work for the last 20 years. And I'm on an exercise trying to understand how an algorithm can work to solve a problem. I'm working with a sketch here that I made that shows going back to these various videotapes and stringing them together, daisy chain them together, to see if I can make sense using the algorithm I was taught to use. I'm going to continue now.
To understand that kind of inside joke. And then, of course, I had to make a little brass plaque to go with it. This is a little brass plaque that will, all museum things have little brass plaques, and so I'm going to find a place to put the brass plaque along with that. So somehow I'm going to get all this into this nice little cube, like that. Something like that. So it's actually my book and the artifacts, the archive, you might say, from the writing of the book, which took place all in the year 2012, last year. So I thought you'd enjoy seeing that plan that I'm working on. I'm Bill Ritchie. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and you know what? There's another Bill Ritchie, and maybe a more interesting Bill Ritchie in Virginia. He has a company. He and his wife started a company years ago for educational games that teach, and they call it today Think Fun. And just a few days ago, I was exploring a concept they call Escape the Room, and I found this game put out by Think Fun. And so I couldn't wait to order it, and I ordered it, and it came the other day. And now I'm busy kind of analyzing and studying it, because my dream has always been to make a teaching game that teaches printmaking. I've done all kinds of groundwork for it. I wrote a novel called Rembrandt's Ghost, and my idea now has been strengthened tremendously by looking at this game and how it's made up. It comes in a nice box. And so right away I started studying the contents. I can't wait to play it. It takes about anywhere from 3 to 8 players according to the instructions. And inside the box it tells you in the instructions, don't read ahead. You're the host of this escape game, and you are not allowed, even as the host, to go any further, even read the first scene message. I found that interesting. And then I went inside the box, again, being careful to follow the rules, because, you don't mess with Bill Ritchie. And I found a package inside. I can't wait to open it. It has some sort of clues in this game. You may know about the real escape games that are popping up. Yes, in the 6 years between that museum show and my interest in escape games, a lot had changed. Well, a lot had changed in escape games, in the evolution of escape games, putting people in a little room, locking the door, giving them an hour and a half to figure out all the puzzles in the room to escape. It stressed teamwork and problem solving. That's kind of very interesting. Unlike anything in the art museum,
The art museum was kind of a flat world, you know, you've been there before, it goes around and around, you're back again where you started. So that much I learned in 6 years.
Do that in an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours. So I personally think it would be great fun. And so I just want to share that with you. Right away in the bottom of the box I discovered a round thing, which of course gives me the idea for the wheel that is involved with a printing press. So I'm off and I'm studying. Pretty soon Linda and our daughter Nellie and I will play this game and in effect make it unusable because you only get to play it one time. After you've played it, you have to sort of pass it forward to someone else because now you already know what the clues are. No point in keeping it around. So, and I have a plan. I have just the perfect person to pass this forward to, and I won't tell you the name of that person yet. Thanks for watching this, and thanks for sharing for a minute my enthusiasm for this game that the other Bill Ritchie and his wife have put out.
Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and I'm going to read to you from my book, Rembrandt's Ghost in the New Machine. The main character is me, traveling time traveler in the name of Mac. And Mac has accidentally ended up in Amsterdam in 1660, and he's visiting with Rembrandt. The backstory is that Mac has brought his half-wood press with him. So the half-wood press is sort of my co-star. Rembrandt has seen this press and he's very much taken by it. He's talking to Mac in his home, and his assistant, Arndt van Gelder, is with him. Rembrandt collected himself, he turned serious, and explained to Arndt that this man was a guest who was staying next door, an American scholar or engineer who planned to sell the presses in the Dutch Republic. And he, Rembrandt, was going to buy the first one, maybe even become an agent for the American company. Mac, of course, was oblivious to what was being said because it was in Dutch. Rembrandt said, "Meneer Ritchie, may I offer you something?" He suddenly became hospitable, and he switched back to English. Then in Dutch he said back to Arndt, "Prepare some tea." Rembrandt turned back to study the press and the monotype Mac had made. Rembrandt made a new proposition to Mac for his press. He said something about playing cards. Rembrandt was excited as he thought of the alternatives to buying the press. He said, "Can I give you a share in the project? I will make small etchings as I have been offered a commission by the world's most famous. Do you know Spielkarten? It means playing cards." Max shook his head. However, he had learned Spielkarten. In actuality, he had some thoughts about his own making playing cards. So another few years passed since you recall seeing that I had the book at the time of the Fry Museum, and now I'm reading from the book. And in between that was the escape game. So making a connection, the rules or the clues to escape the escape game, the box or whatever, either as a boxed game or as a real room with a real etching press in it and all that, requires the reading of the novel, my version of what could have happened back in the 17th century. So it bears thinking. It tickles the imagination. Now the reading goes on for quite a few minutes,
My
so
problem is I have
I'll
no
stop
press.
talking and get back
Your
to the
press,
story.
I can see, will do the job. Is there a way that I can use it? For shares, perhaps, or a partnership? Before Mac could say anything, Van Ryn had another idea to propose, and he said, without a pause, he asked, "How long are you going to stay in Amsterdam?" "I don't know," Mac said, thinking to himself, "maybe forever, for all I know," he added. "I need to think about that." Mac was, in truth, intrigued by Rembrandt's mention of playing cards. In the 20th century, playing cards were mass-produced by machines and printed in the billions. Casinos routinely drilled and discarded thousands of custom decks. Playing cards were to be part of a multi-billion-dollar gambling industry, and adding to that, sports cards and collectible cards came along in the 19th and 20th centuries, which inspired new kinds of mass-produced cards produced by the millions, and novel games, even major tournaments that required them. Mass production of playing cards was not the case in the 17th century, however. Playing cards were produced a few at a time by hand on hand-operated printing presses. Such cards as survived had achieved the status of museum pieces by Mac's time. They were collectible art and antiques because they were hand-printed and therefore they were scarce. 20th century artists had taken up making an unusual variety of custom cards that were widely referred to as artist trading cards, or ATC. That's why Mac's test plate, which is still sitting on the press bed with Rembrandt's ghost image, was card-sized. Mac had designed his mini half-wood press for printing several types of cards in mind. He was inspired by the quirky ATCs, also artist postcards, and even artist stamps. The small size of it also meant that he could take the little press wherever and whenever he could print. However, Mac never thought he would go as far away as Amsterdam, and certainly not back in Rembrandt's time. Mac's thoughts were interrupted by Rembrandt as he repeated the question. "Well, Mynheer Mac Ritchie, how long? How long can you stay? Can you stay long enough for me to print the cards for Van Leest?" Mac thought for a second and he answered, "Perhaps. Would you be willing to endorse my press?" Endorse? Never having heard of endorsement, Rembrandt was stumped, and he looked quizzically at Mac for an explanation. "Yes, you know, endorse the press, put your name on it." Van Ryn was speechless. He had never heard of such a thing. He scratched his head and seemed annoyed, and he calmed, and then with diffidence, he said, I don't understand. My English, your use of words is confusing to me. Endorse? That's a word I never know." I'm going to pause there because a little later, Rembrandt is telling his wife that Mac, this visitor, had made a proposition to endorse the press. This is chapter 31. Cornelia Van Ryn, their daughter, 6 years old, pouted in the middle room. Her mother had scolded her for spinning the press's wheel, but Cornelia could not see why it wasn't allowed. It was fun, as much fun as any of the other attractions in the amusement park where she'd been. Her father, too, had scolded her for no good reason. After that unpleasantness passed, the grown-ups, including Arendt and the man in the odd clothes who talked funny, had visited a while Arendt took the man away. Where they went, Cornelia didn't know, and she didn't care. The funny man had left his machine, the wheel thing, on the table. Cornelia sat quietly and thought of the charm which nice Mynheer Lengelbach of the new Doolhof had given her, the amusement park. It was a shiny pewter windmill made to be hung like a necklace.
She had forgotten about it in the excitement, and now she took the little charm out from under her shirt and held it between two chubby fingers to Stubby. She remembered her grandfather because her mother told her Rembrandt's father had a windmill in Leiden. She also knew that Arendt's father had a mill, a paper mill. Cornelia wished the little metal sails on the windmill charm would go around like the wheel on that man's machine, which sat on the table with no one using it. She longed to play with it. Cornelia looked up at her father and mother as they bickered about the wheel thing. Mother pleaded with father and said things Cornelia didn't understand, but they had something to do with the machine. Cornelia hated when they argued. Sometimes father shouted and mother cried. Hendrika said, "Yes, I do too understand, Van Rijn, but what if the American doesn't sell it to you? And you promised Van Leest, and you have already taken his money? What will you say? What will you do?" "The American will sell. Already he has said as much. In America, they barter with a system called endorse. All I have to do is put my name on it." Astonished, Hendrika stared at Rembrandt for a full second and wondered if he was serious. She burst, "Are you out of your mind? Do you believe that? He takes you for a fool." "Watch it, wife," Rembrandt warned her. Unfazed, she did not stop. No one is that stupid, giving to someone a thing for simply putting their name on it. Rembrandt glared at her. He thought that she may be right, but he didn't want to give in. He turned away, his shoulders sagged, and he let out a long sigh of resignation. As her husband deflated, Hendrika felt sympathy for her downcast man. Well, that's all I'm going to read for now. That's my favorite part. Mack asking Rembrandt to endorse his press as part of the share in the making of artist cards, and Hendrika pointing out to him, "That's crazy." Thanks for listening. I'm Bill Ritchie.
Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and all over my table here I have the parts to help me invent a game. I'm calling it Holo Press for Rembrandt. Another name is Holo Press for Rembrandt's Ghost, because it's all based on a novel that I wrote, Rembrandt's Ghost in the New Machine. The idea is that I build a little etching press like the one Rembrandt used out of these little wooden parts. They're all in this kit. Partway through the process of inventing this game based on a novel, I came across a toy called the holographics. And so this became a helpful element. Holographics uses iPhone that you put, or iPod, that goes into this little stand and shows you a kind of reflection in this screen so that you can run little movies on your iPod. So the idea of a ghost in the machine appealed to me because that image has a kind of ghost-like quality. But I was surprised to find out that the holographics toy was based on a magician's act. So it comes with bags and bags and bags of all kinds of little toys and pieces that go together to make magical acts. Well, that's where we kind of go in two different directions. So what I've done is I've taken their instruction book, which looks like this, and I started writing my own instruction book. But I'm still stuck. I've come to the point where I have 48 cards, collectible trading cards, one for each chapter in the book, and corresponding to the illustrations.
So now here we are back in 2013. This was when the Frye Museum show is still hanging. I think it was for 3 months. And then I've gone off continuing to try to develop a game, and I come across this thing called holographics, and I'm all excited. We have the escape game, we have the holographics game, which was sort of like a magic show base, but the important thing is that it's recursive. In other words, what I was doing in 2013, I was doing with the museum and the games idea. Now I've come to the parts where I have all the parts for the game, and meanwhile I'm reading from the novel Rembrandt's Ghost in a New Machine, which provides the backstory, and it gets very confusing. Recursivity is like that. You're sort of like a spiral. You're not in a flat circle where it's continuous, but you're sort of spiraling up from the flat concept and going up, and it's sort of like a spring, and you can like a slinky, and you compress the spiral back down to the circle, and you find yourself back intersecting with something that happened before. And it's a really intriguing and quite frankly confusing.
An iPod, videos that show maybe the adventures of the hero and Rembrandt and the other villains in the story. That's where I am now. So I thought I'd share that with you, and maybe send out a call for help for people who know about games, collectible card games, and all the kinds of elements that we have that would make a very interesting printmaking experience. Thanks for watching this. I'm Bill Ritchie. So if you out there who are watching this know anything about designing games, game strategies, game mechanics, and the rest of it, and want to get involved with me creating this game and toy combination, please send me an email. Thank you. Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and what I'm showing here is a Professor Appreciation Badge that I'm sending to Professor Werbach, Kevin Werbach in Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business. Professor Werbach is a professor of business and ethics, I think, business law and ethics. Anyway, he put on a course, an online course called the MOOC, Massively Open Online Course, called Gamification, and I took that course. And
Wow, 2012 was a busy year with the show at the Fry, the games idea and so forth. And when an announcement came out by Coursera to take a MOOC, a massively open online course, I signed up, and I just looked at it on the screen. It's still going after what, since 2012, 13 years. And 156,600 students are enrolled now, according to their current website. And it was interesting that as the history of the MOOC proceeded over the next decade, colleges that could do it would begin using the MOOC as an advertising way to showcase one of their star professors and their most popular classes, to give potential students a glimpse of what it would be like if they came, so they could increase their on-site attendance by students from all over the world to come to their university because they saw it on MOOC. Unfortunately, here in Washington State, no one picked up on that I know of. One university in Seattle. But oh well, it's a great way to reach out, and with some artful craft, I think printmaking could have had a place on as a MOOC. Well, let's get back to the program.
it's not tactile, it's not made of anything valuable. Even this one, which is made of brass, at least brass is more valuable than a digital image in my opinion. So anyway, I thought you'd enjoy seeing this certificate of statement of completion that I received for finishing the course on gamification taught by Professor Werbach at the Wharton School of Business. Well, here I am again, and now it's 6 years later,
And I decided, after I rediscovered my book online, my notes and so forth, I decided to finish the project and make it into a book, and here it is. I changed the name a little bit and I made it more interesting, and I put it on Amazon, and I also put it on Amazon's Kindle. And that's how I like to read some of my books, because I can carry it around on my cell phone and read it whenever I feel like it. So I hope you enjoyed watching these excerpts and consider buying my new book on Kindle or in paper. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm Bill Ritchie.
Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie. I'm a press designer. Etching presses like this one. I make them small. I make them beautiful. This is just one of the examples. I want to tell you a story about another kind of press that I made. It's a replica of a Rembrandt press, the kind of press that was used in the 1700s. In an odd way, I came across a toy called holographics. It was because the company, a man in Texas representing Goliath here in the United States, was promoting the holographics toy, and I saw that on a crowdsourcing net, and I contributed something, I don't remember how much, and the other day I received my reward, a kit, the example of the holographics.
I started this project, Rembrandt's Algorithm, a catchy title to get attention, because I'm on a real mission, a real quest, partly to understand how can an algorithm help people have printmaking experiences, particularly young kids. Young kids are being urged to learn code, to learn robotics, to learn STEM, science, technology, and all the rest of it. As an artist, I'm kind of like an outsider looking in on the whole STEM movement. And as I asked Copilot, a chatbot, for help, she suggested I make a story for kids to illustrate for myself what is an algorithm, and kind of brought me up to this. So I went back to 2012, 2013 to the original Rembrandt metaphor. Now we're living history. Fun to watch.
Here, and play the game. It works with an iPod, an iPhone, Android, or the iPod, and comes with instructions so that the users can hold their, I don't know what the instructions are, but they hold their iPod next to this kind of reflecting surface, and it gives you the illusion that there's this ghost-like feature talking through this portal. Well, over the coming days, I hope to be putting this together and comparing it to the idea that I have for a ghost-like teacher that comes with my etching presses. That ghost-like teacher might be me, or perhaps as this project develops, we'll have honest-to-goodness actors. Who knows? Maybe Rembrandt himself will show up. I'm Bill Ritchie, and I thank you for watching. You see that screen? I'm copying files. You see this cable? Can you see this press? I'm copying the files from this computer to this press. That's the press ghost. It's like filling the tank on your car with gas. I'm taking my main files, my personally created files, and I'm transferring them all to the hood in the half-wood press. This is number 15, going to a publisher on the East Coast, and she will write a review.
That was a good story. The publisher, unfortunately, never published her review in this particular paper, and I had high expectations, but sometimes, you know, it just doesn't work out.
Links, many links to the internet, email, contact addresses, and all kinds of information. Almost 3 gigabytes, I think, that I have in the Press Ghost now. It's capable of holding 8 gigabytes, or of course, if you buy a different, bigger flash drive, 32 gigabytes. Well, the tank is almost full. All the files are almost completely transferred. So I will disconnect the cable, roll the cable up and put it in the shipping box, pack up the whole thing, and send it off to its new owner. I'm Bill Ritchie. All done. Thank you for watching.
We come to a gap here in my little timeline, and so it's time to stop and reflect for a while what this is all about. It started with a 2013 view of a museum show, and I showed my obsession with the Rembrandt's ghost idea. You see, all art majors are following after the ghosts, mainly of dead artists. And in printmaking, we use a lot of machines called printing presses. And my obsession with the machines, the printing presses, a kind of extension of technology, and my way of getting into technology, are inhabited by ghosts. And I was able to manifest this by putting a flash drive in, and well, you saw the whole thing. Now it's 2025, 13 years later, 12 years, and I'm trying to figure out how algorithms work. And how can an algorithm, whatever that is, show me how to make printmaking an experience that more people can have. And I'm using 3D printmaking, I'm using 3D modeling, I'm using a lot of computers and so forth. But the one big mystery is, to me, if an algorithm works to solve problems, and I have a problem in that I'm kind of like trapped in the past printmaking traditions and looking forward to the new traditions with young people who are using robotics and writing algorithms, then I need to understand how an algorithm works. And so I took these 10 or 11, maybe a dozen videos, daisy-chained them together, and put them on my computer, and then started playing them and interrupting them, and like seeking and groping for the order that was taught to me works with algorithms, with recursivity specifically. Not circular kind of algorithm, but an algorithm that uses recursivity. In other words, going back and taking something from the past and adding it to the process of solving the problem. I think that's how it's working. Now, the next one you're going to see is from last year, or 2023, and there was a play opportunity sponsored by a local art college called Cornish, and if your play proposal succeeded, they would produce the play. And I got all excited about doing that on the theme of Rembrandt's ghosts and the etching press and all the rest. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull it off. I couldn't find any support among the people I knew, so it didn't work out. Anyway, so let's take a look at the two samples that I gave from that period of 2023 when I was applying for putting on a play. I learned a lot, though. I'm not going to spoil everything by saying who I am or who the other people are who might be participating in this improvisation. I will tell you that it's in preparation for a play which would happen in December of 2023. The play is called Rembrandt's Secret Press. Rembrandt's Secret Press. It's about a missing press that Rembrandt made for his daughter Cornelia. He began the press in 1654 when she was born on New Year's night. He lost the mansion where she was born. He had hidden his press, which was made of olive wood and was an exact copy of the big press that he made his famous etchings on. Hundreds. As I said, he went bankrupt and lost the mansion where he had hidden the press in the attic. He forgot about it. The press lay hidden there for hundreds of years, literally hundreds of years. But in the reconstruction of the attic in November of 2022, workers found the press intact in a box. The odd thing was that the press seemed to have been bled upon. Rembrandt cut himself, he bled on the press, and he put it away, and it was forgotten. Now, here's where the story really becomes interesting. In 2022, as I said, it was found, and when they inspected the press, they determined that, yes, this was blood, human blood, and they speculated it might be Rembrandt's. Pretty interesting topic. Well, there happened to be a time when genetics and cloning were very much alive and under debate. To make a long story short, in the Middle East, a wealthy collector took the press, bought the press, and his scientist worked at cloning from the DNA sample on the press. Now, the story is interesting because it focuses on kids. The play I work on, that I'm improvising on, works for kids because the press was intended for kids. It was intended for his daughter, Cornelia. My goal in life is to introduce such a small press to kids in the form of a subscription kit, a kit where you make a press, like the one Rembrandt made, and then you make paper, the way paper was made in those times, and then you make a plate, perhaps not the same way that Rembrandt made plates. These are processes that take acids and copper and such things that are difficult to come by and dangerous to handle, frankly. But making plates by some means, such as 3D printing or laser engraving or carving, whatever is possible for kids up to 10 or 12 years old. Following that, the plate is printed by the kid. So you make the press, you make the paper, you make the plate, you print the plate. Lastly, in my 5-step process, you share the print with other kids around the world through a network called Print Pals, sort of like Pen Pals. Well, that's the essence of the background for this play. The play, of course, has to be much shorter, can't go into those kinds of details, but I was asked to begin improvising and role-playing as if I am to come up with the parts and the characterization and the rest of it, and that is what I'm doing. However, I need a collaborator. I need a number of collaborators as co-producers, as co-writers, as performers, designers, all the things it takes to create a stage play. I'm doing it under the inspiration of Cornish Arts Incubator. That's what I'm doing it for. And if you do see this video, if I do put it up, wish me luck and definitely contact me. If it interests you, you might be a participant. not only as an audience member, but also as a producer. Thank you. In this series of videos I'm making for the Cornish competition for a space in their theater, why would I include a session of me making a product shoot of mini etching presses? The answer is simple, but it's not easy to understand, and it's not short. But I'll do my best. I grew up here most of my life in the Seattle area, but I always thought I'd go where there's a blend of technologies, as is such a strong industry in the Northwest, with old technologies, which I represent in this model of a Rembrandt press, such as you'll find in Amsterdam in the Rembrandt's Museum. A press so small you could control it with a Raspberry Pi, a computer, not in this fashion, of course. And how to shrink the story of Rembrandt and his contributions to creative problem solving into a short story or play, a gesture that little kids could understand and enjoy and maybe identify with in some fashion, so that their creativity they exhibit in their childish ways might be preserved in this age of digital reproduction and artificial intelligence. Therefore, it's appropriate that most of the scenes and approaches and treatments in the play that I want to present, I have composed with the use of AI, both the ChatGPT 3.5 and Bard. I just wanted to say that at the outset. There are stories to tell about Rembrandt's Blood, which is one of the titles suggested by AI. The other, Da Vinci Code Blue, as possible treatments for the play I want to be part of making. But it all comes down to this little wooden press, a press I first designed and built in 2012. Sold a few copies of it. But I want to carry on, and the play on the stage in front of a live audience and probably digitally recorded is another opportunity for me to engage other people in this notion that Rembrandt's creativity using the media, etching in his case, are central to preserving the creative spirit that has been part of human existence since the Paleolithic era. The handprint on the wall, next to the painting of the ox, an extinct cow, art and technology were joined at birth in the caves. Thank you for watching. It's amazing, all through the years, from when I started the novel in 2012 to 10 years later in 2022, they did remodel the attic in Rembrandt's home, former mansion. And of course, they didn't find the miniature press that he made for his daughter. I did. I made that in 2012. All through this period, there were instances where my imagined events actually happened in history. The 1660 episodes, his loss of the mansion and the amusement park across the road from his house, his landlord, the artist cards. It was amazing, wonderful experience. The takeaway I have for you is one I made for myself, this video called Rembrandt's Algorithm. What you see on the screen is Dr. Faustus, one of Rembrandt's most famous etchings. I've always been fascinated by it, wondering what is it he's looking at in the window. I decided that I would use that image for my own interpretation and say it was his algorithm. And then I needed to define for myself what it is and what the difference is between a circular algorithm, sort of like that, and a recursive algorithm. And I decided that's my takeaway. I have learned what the difference is and why it's important for such a creative figure as Rembrandt and his ghost. Thanks for watching. After about a week of collecting all these videos that focused on Rembrandt's ghost and trying to figure out how they would lead to an algorithm, Rembrandt's algorithm, I turned back to my artificial intelligence chatbot called Copilot and asked her to write a short children's story to explain the difference between two types of algorithms, a circular algorithm and a recursive algorithm. The circular is appropriate to redundant art, and the recursive algorithm is appropriate to a creative art, such as I think Rembrandt might have intuited. So here's the little story. Once upon a time on Queen Anne Hill, there was a garden full of flowers, and a little bee named Buzz is tasked with visiting every flower to collect nectar. He wanted to know the best way to complete his journey. Buzz decides to follow a simple circular path. He starts at the first flower, gathers nectar, and moves to the next flower and then the next until he's visited every single one. When he's done, he stops and says, "Mission accomplished." A circular algorithm is like walking along a circle, one step at a time, until you get back to where you started. This is how a circular algorithm works. It is straightforward and loops through a series of steps until the task is complete. And so Buzz starts his day flitting from flower to flower, collecting nectar in a repetitive circular manner. Day after day, he works tirelessly, following the same loop over and over again. While he enjoys the scent of the flowers, he realizes this circular path is exhausting and inefficient. It takes him forever to gather all the nectar, and he hardly has time to relax or try new dances. One evening, as Buzz hums to himself, an idea springs to mind. What if he created a special dance that could communicate all the details about the flowers to his fellow bees? Their locations, nectar availability, and the best routes to reach them. The dance would be like a clever language, empowering his hive to work together rather than relying solely on him. The next morning, Buzz performs his newfound nectar dance in front of the hive. The dance is a marvel, short and rhythmic, conveying everything his bee friends need to know. Inspired by Buzz's moves, the bees split up. Each bee takes responsibility for a few flowers and teaches the dance to other bees if they encounter unfamiliar routes. Together, they collect nectar much faster and more efficiently than Buzz ever could alone. Buzz's dance marks a paradigm shift from a circular algorithm, one bee doing everything, to a recursive algorithm, each bee building on Buzz's instructions and delegating tasks. The hive thrives, and Buzz finally finds time to choreograph new dances. Creativity, after all, was his true passion all along.
This story was prompted by Bill Ritchie to the AI Copilot and used 11 labs to clone his voice. It is a demonstration both in voice synthesis and a chatbot as Bill seeks to explain the difference between two methods of writing an algorithm, circular and recursive, to use in learning the joys of printmaking, Bill's true passion.